On the subject of the corona pandemic, much has been written and talked about, and just as undoubtedly the effects on the economy are common sense. The only difference of opinion is whether it is a short-term crisis or a permanent condition. I believe that the latter is the case and that the changes brought about by the pandemic will be irreversible. In this video I will give only one concrete example, which is why I believe that the current situation is not a trend, but a transformation of the system. With the global lockdowns and social distancing regulations, it became increasingly clear that companies needed to strengthen their online presence to survive. In 2020, Facebook generally allowed merchants to open a store on their platform. An initiative that goes back to Mark Zuckerberg himself. He wouldn't do that if it wasn't profitable for Facebook in the long run. That's why entry is initially free. But Zuckerberg wouldn't do that if they didn't firmly expect that the merchants would stay or have to stay there. It's quite possible that Facebook invests so much in a trend, but I don't believe it. Every system needs forms of organization and, technically speaking, values for its processes. This is no different for the new economic system, or rather, it should not be. Accordingly, the new guidelines and boundary conditions were discussed and defined at the World Economic Forum 2016. Klaus Schwab's speech on the Great Reset is considered groundbreaking for the future of the system. In this context, the corona pandemic becomes the starting signal. Topics include the global debt system of states, sustainable capitalism, climate change and the digitalization of companies. After this system input at the latest, the insightful players know how they must act. System transformations can be brought about in two ways. Either by the activation of several players in the system, who are located at the nodes and who, through their coordinated activity, bring about changes precisely at these nodes. The well-known tipping point situation. Or by the activity of those decision-makers who have the greatest influence and power in the system. This is the well-known critical essence situation. Currently, this is being applied, which can be seen from the fact that Microsoft, Google, Amazon and Facebook, players in the system with great influence and power, have long since adapted their business models to the new normal and are repositioning themselves perfectly. Which is no surprise, since behind them are visionary and born entrepreneurs. Each action, input, in the system is part of a process. The totality of these processes determines the organizational form of the system and represents the processualization. Currently we can observe how individual processes change and adapt according to the new guidelines. More and more companies are committing to stakeholder capitalism, advertising sustainability and green initiatives, keyword, New Green Deal, integrating digital solutions into their work processes, Zoom meetings, or offering them. AI, augmented and virtual reality companies receive funds in unprecedented sums or corresponding projects are instantiated by the aforementioned decision makers, and not to forget the connected devices economy. We are made to believe that everything will be like it used to be. This essentially addresses our instinct towards change. But things will never be the same again. Period. Since each of us is a player in the system, who more or less triggers processes in the system, the change of the processualization in the system will necessarily affect you sooner or later. Many already now. Then the question is whether you are or want to be an active or passive player in the new system. If you have understood all the preceding, the answer to this question will be very easy, won't it? Of course, what kind of mindset you have also plays a role. Do you want to control or do you prefer to be controlled, out of convenience, habit, lack of self-confidence? And last but not least, who seriously believes that it will remain with only one pandemic? That there will be no further, other, pandemics? With the advanced globalization, the interconnectivity of us humans and companies and the usual development of viruses? You may survive, just this pandemic. No, the system change is here, long ago, and it is the responsibility of all of us which place we want to take in it, this time.